Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm so excited for today. This is really funny. I had your friend Teresa on, and I always ask my guests, like, hey, is there anybody that you think I should interview? And she had said you. And I was like, oh my gosh, I actually was thinking about you anyway, because I just remember that when you were Naya's preschool teacher, like you were one of the few that I was like, she gets it. I just knew. Right. So it was just funny. I was like, okay, that confirms for me that my gut was right. I need to have her on. So here we are. I'm very
That's
excited.
awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
So before we start, can you introduce yourself to everybody?
For sure. Thanks. Yeah. So I'm Breanne LaMoureaux, and I guess currently just a little bit about me, right? But I am working on my. I'm in graduate program for my MSW for social work.
Yay.
Yeah. I'm a mama. Is this where we want to go? So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well,
Sorry.
actually, that's where I wanted to start was, oh, I
Okay.
see your kitty. Oh my gosh, stop it.
Sorry. He's like, I want to be here. So
What's his name?
this is Asriel Jupiter.
Oh, he is
Yeah.
so cute. I've seen pictures on social media, but
Oh, yes.
he's so
He's
cute.
a he's confirmed that I am a cat person. I mean, I've had dogs too, but I've always had cats except for the last decade or so. I couldn't because the kid's dad is allergic. And
Oh,
long story
okay.
short, here we are, and now we have a kitty, and
Oh, aren't they the best? I love cats. Cats
the
are
best.
so, yes. Okay, sorry, I got sidetracked.
Same.
That happens. Okay, actually, what I wanted to start with was for you to talk about your children because you had said that your children are actually your inspiration. And I just would love to hear more about that, where that comes from and what that means to you.
Absolutely. So my children, I have three Earthside, and I have one who is not with us.
Mhm.
And I think that what I realized from the very beginning, my oldest, she's 18 and she's in college also. So like it's kind of crazy to think about um, you have an adult child
Right?
out there in the world,
Yeah,
know.
totally.
But I think every day that I look at them, I have my daughter, she's 18. I have a sophomore son and a fourth grade son, and then my daughter who is passed away when she was a baby. But
Okay.
they're the things that I realized going through. I think my kids have always been my inspiration to be continually to be a better person, to push myself to be someone I want them to be proud of. And
Mm,
in the beginning of being a mom, you think about, oh, all these things I want my kids to do and try and experience or become. And then as they get older, as you get older, you realize, oh, wait, you are your own individual, and oh,
mhm,
I am my own individual. So how do we do this and teach each other what that means? And so that is where I think the basis of the foundation of why they're my inspiration is because I look
mm.
at them, I'm like, oh wait, yeah, I get to be checked too, and I get to become a better person. And thank you for that, because
Oh, I
otherwise I
love
might
that.
just be sitting there going, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So I like that you just said I get to be checked too. Like that's
Yeah,
okay, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Humility, it's a
Hmm.
it's hard to deal with the ego, but and I still obviously I mean I have a lot of struggle with being checked as a mom, but over the last 5 years, over the last 3 years specifically, I've been working very intentionally on trying to be open to the fact that these creatures are autonomous.
Hmm.
And just because I have this expectation of something doesn't mean that that's the way it absolutely needs to be, and it's refreshing to
Hmm.
parent like that. Not that it makes it easy, but
Yeah.
it makes those things a little bit more manageable.
Yeah, for sure. Um, Another thing that I like that you said was that it wasn't until you were in your SEL classes at Eastern, at Eastern Washington University. Sorry, I should say that in case there's people that don't live around
Colleagues.
here. Yeah, go East. That's right. That it wasn't until you were in those classes that you really understood like the awareness platform for trauma.
Yeah.
And that was really interesting to me. And so Um, I think that potentially plays into what we just talked about, which is your children being your inspiration and kind of you having this growth mindset. So how
Absolutely.
just talk to me more about that. Like what did that look like? And what was like, was it an aha moment or was it something you learned or what did that look like?
Um, so not to backtrack too far into the story about how I got to where I became a preschool teacher and had this where it really became the aha moment, was that I ended up realizing that a lot of my personal life and professional or student life, whatever is going on, seems to be parallel.
Hmm.
And when I was pushed into this world of professional world again, because I'd been a stay-at-home mom for
Mm,
over a decade, and that was the vision, the goal, right? Like I'm
hmm.
creating this palpable environment of love and no trauma,
Hmm.
trying to, so to
Yeah.
speak. But and then you get put in this a situation where you're like, okay, so you have to kind of combine what you're dealing with where you have to be, right? And
Hmm.
so however, whether it was, fated, however it became, I ended up working and becoming a preschool teacher, right?
Hmm.
And having to go through the curriculum and learn the curriculum that I'm teaching there, which was a social, emotional based, learning based curriculum, which is quick plug, conscious discipline. It's amazing, and it really, I think for me, a lot of it felt like common sense because I had been educating and teaching or loving my children in that way. But I also
Sure.
realized that that doesn't really happen out there in the world of public system or, even parent children dynamic. It's kind of,
Hmm.
I don't know if it's a lost art or if it's just something that's coming to consciousness. But at the same time, I was able to be like, oh, so this is what it is. I was given language to what I intuitively learned or thought or taught as a mom, right? And so
Hmm.
having that opportunity to um, have all these little humans around me and with an actual for lack of a better word, script
Hmm.
almost,
Yeah.
scripting of how to connect with someone that has a lot of hard to reach emotions,
Yeah.
right? Because that's what I was dealing with in my world too, in my
Hmm.
personal world, was like, and learning those techniques and learning that moment of like, and there it goes, aha,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, everything that you need to learn about life and how to even set the foundation to even deal with life.
Hmm.
Like you can learn in preschool and you can learn through this connectivity of the social emotional basis between child and teacher, but
Hmm.
child and parent,
Parent.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was it. It was like that was the aha moment, learning through going, oh my gosh, you can communicate
Yeah.
in a way with people that are just on the edge,
Yeah.
and I would apply it for myself, and I still do years later,
Mm.
like 7 years later, it's a self-application process every day. But yeah,
Yeah. Um, so were you in classes at Eastern when you were a preschool teacher or what was it like
yeah,
simultaneous? Okay. So
yes,
you're like learning about this stuff and then seeing it in the classroom and then having this like, wait, this is also what I do with my kids and kind of what we're going through. It was all these like
right,
things lining up that you're like,
absolutely.
oh, yeah, okay. That
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, and I was like riding that passion wave, right? And it's like, wow, thank you for this experience. And it's like, I mean, I think a lot of us probably go, what am I doing? Right? What am I
Mhm.
doing in this world? What am I doing with this life? But I've been blessed to have moments like that really interspersed throughout my life that I've been like, oh, okay, yep, I see the connection. I
Yeah.
see it. Let's work on that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm curious. This is just like coming to me. Were you already working on yourself or was that kind of the catalyst for uh, that came out wrong. Like were
No,
you already like maybe in therapy or moving forward and healing from some of the stuff that you experienced in your life and then you learn all of this or was that the catalyst for getting you into therapy and getting you to move forward in a healing way?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have to think of that about that for a second, because I think it again, it might have been it might have been the catalyst, because I was theoretically forced into the work world,
Mm-hmm.
and being in this place that I just was so welcomed and loved and given that space and given the honor to I really love where I worked for that purpose, because it was like my pre-therapy, like
Mm-hmm.
I never felt like I was being judged for what I was experiencing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, some of the, people that I worked with had an understanding of why I would be the way I would be or whatnot. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, it was like, okay, um, I need to be able to continue this regulation. What is this?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that gave me a little bit of level playing field to be able to evaluate what I needed to be able to proceed in a fashion that was like, I can work with these little humans, and I can
Yeah.
confidently teach these little humans that, and confidently teach my kids, because it's kind of, I know this sounds vague, we haven't gotten into the meat of anything in my world, but it's like from going from being a stay-at-home mom who's teaching your children these things day in and day out, to being put into a situation where you're kind of completely dismantled and detached from reality for a good chunk of time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you have no idea how to parent, to being thrown into the world of profession where you're like, okay, like my world is people, so my world is little people, let's
Mm-hmm.
go to little people world, right? But
Yeah.
in reality, they're the ones that taught me, so
Yeah.
it's just a
Yeah.
beautiful experience.
Yeah.
And being educated during that time, or having these classes in my undergrad, um, while teaching these little humans, it was like, yeah, it was the beginning of my therapy that was like, yep, this is where we're going. And
Yeah.
insert grown-up therapy.
I know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Quote.
Well, so I would love to hear, as much as you want to share, like what did lead up to you um becoming a preschool teacher, and basically now I'm not a stay-at-home mom, now I'm in the working world, and which turns out to be a blessing because you were able to find yourself, find healing, move forward in a really um positive growing way.
Right, yeah.
Um, but I'm sure in that moment, it didn't feel super exciting to be like, okay, my world is upside down. So, however much you're willing to share about kind of what you went through that led up to that, we would love to hear.
Gosh, yeah. I mean, it's really complex.
Hmm.
Um, as a lot of us have a lot of complexity, and I have a lot of complex traumas that
Hmm.
even still, but I think the most, that sounds awful, but the most fresh or recent way to explain what has put me in this direction of what I did was the loss of who is my daughter, Arkea.
Hmm.
And that was a very traumatic birth experience that led
Mm.
to a week-long um, state of, the best way that I can explain that was the beginning of disillusionment.
Mm.
And my daughter didn't make it through after the birth. And since that day, which was September 4th, 2016, we have just
Oh.
lived in this world of like, what's happening,
Hmm.
And um, I was married at the time, and we
Hmm.
had 3 children, and we did not know how to cope, right? I
Yeah.
remember us sitting in the hospital, and one of the doctors was very stern faced, and did not have much of a bedside table manner, right?
Mm.
And he's like, not a lot of couples make it through this. And like he
Oh my
gave some awful stat, and I'm just like, why would you even say that,
Yeah.
right? And I look at my
Oh,
husband at that time, and I'm like, well, thankfully we're not those couples, because we
yeah.
had been through a lot, and
Hmm.
um, we have been through the worst of the worst up until that point, which is literally
Sure.
the
The
worst of the
worst.
worst, right?
Yeah.
And you go, well, we can do this. We can do this. We had all sorts of different reasons of why we thought we were going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get through it, and we fell into the typical um, mom kind of loses her mind
Mm-hmm.
and has a lot of grief and PTSD, and dad kind of goes, I think, in the denial world and
Mm-hmm.
has to do the dad thing, right? Now
Yeah.
I got to go back to work. I got to support the family, but we don't really deal with that. Like we don't connect, right?
Yeah.
And so our way of dealing with that trauma did not work, and it became a lot of, well, this is what we're going to do. And so
Mm.
now I'm going to be a single mom, and now I'm going to have to go work. And that was like, it was like,
Yeah.
what are
Yeah.
you kidding me? Are you
Yeah.
kidding me? And then it was just dealing with grief and heartache and
Yeah.
trauma while trying to learn about, because my undergrad is in psychology.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
I knew I wanted to, my whole life, I've known I've wanted to do something, but never did much of anything because I was a mom. And then we had a lot of domestic issues,
Mm-hmm.
that your podcast has touched on a lot about, so we've had that in our world too. So it's like just one trauma after another, and
Yeah.
never really being able to become whatever I wanted to be when I grew up, which who
Yeah.
knew, who knew
Yeah.
who that was. But
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to help,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
people. And I had originally wanted to do art therapy a long time ago. I was building what was like called this upside down degree, where I was getting my AA in photography as well, and then taking some pre-courses so that I could transfer to Whitworth to continue on with psychology. But
Okay.
then I became, like a mom of multiple instead of
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
one, and could not do
Yeah.
any of it. And
Yeah.
so then it wasn't until crazy drama and trauma that forced
Mm-hmm.
me into becoming whoever I'm supposed to be. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's kind of
Thank you
like
for
the long short of it.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I just want to say I'm so sorry. I can't even, it's the unimaginable. And yeah. So
Yeah,
ooh.
I know. It truly is. It's like I like have a lot of cuss words that are stacked up
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
backside of my tongue, that it's like you just live in this state of, and I guess, and not that we were specifically talking about that, but I do just really had to make the appreciative factor that I have of where I worked during that time, which was,
Yeah.
had I not had which ironic, like there's a lot of pros and cons about working, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of cons that ended up happening because I was working, but not because of them, not because of
Sure.
that place per se. Like they did a really great job holding my heart and my psyche through
Mm.
all of those, because it was like they got me, all those littles, like Naya included. Naya,
Mm.
dude, I gotta tell you, Melissa, you guys were probably and that's when Teresa said, hey, I had this podcast with Melissa. I was like, oh my gosh, let me tell you. Like that family, that
Oh.
woman, yes. And honestly, I kind of put it together over the last couple of years watching you create your business. It's like
Mhm.
I remember having conversations with you, right there at the front, talking
Mhm.
about these types of things and going, well, this is exactly what I've been talking about. And this is
Mhm.
like theoretically what I will include into my practice. Like, this
Mhm.
is like you're filling that gap that was
Mm.
like, I guess that second part of the aha moment for me working in that place, going, okay, I can see, because I come from a family of trauma, because I have
Mhm.
kids in trauma, because I see what they're not getting, because I see what the kids in my classroom aren't
Yep.
getting. It's
Yep.
like, how do I connect that? How do I
Yeah.
connect that? Okay, well, I got to go into the therapist world. I got to go into the social work world. I got to go into this place so that I can help, because, and that's where that second part began, because it was
Mhm.
like, taking that journey into the MSW world instead of going
Yeah.
into, my doctorate for, or any grad for psychology, was because I have to put this into real life application.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, whew,
Yeah.
there's a deeper level there.
Yeah.
So, I gotta
So
work hard.
so did you start therapy then at that point? Is that when you started going to doing your own work?
Yeah, I started therapy probably. I had tried to see a couple different therapists, and so
Yeah.
that's why I think that my journey to become a therapist is fun and ironic because I've been treatment resistant for a long time in my life
Hmm.
for a lot
Hmm.
of several reasons, right? And it wasn't until I met this woman because they started. I was like, I'm not going to do therapy, which ironically, I do a lot of just talk therapy right now. But
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not going to just do talk therapy. Like, I don't want to do any of that. This is such, you know, I could talk to this person, I could talk to that person. What's going to be effective? Because I had a lot of triggers,
Yeah.
a lot, and I still do have a lot of
Yeah.
triggers, but like
Yeah.
I could not manage
Hmm.
forever. And EMDR was what was recommended to
Mm.
me, right?
Hmm.
So I was like, okay, I got to find an EMDR therapist. And then COVID
Mm.
hit,
Yep.
and
Yep.
you know, everything became virtual. And I'm all, I can't do EMDR over a virtual platform. Many people probably can and are
Yeah.
successful. Like I know that they can, but my style of learning is like,
Touch, feel, all of that.
yes,
Yeah.
yep,
Hmm.
I need your energy with it.
Hmm.
So even though I recognized, and I found my EMDR therapist, which she's also qualified to do all the other types of stuff too, but
Hmm.
I was like, okay, well, we can't do EMDR, but she had looped me in at the beginning enough for me to be like, oh, this woman understands my creative aspect because I do all my therapy prior had been through art. I paint, right? I
Hmm.
paint and I write and I just express
Hmm.
to keep it healthy. And it wasn't until I found her that was like, she could work with my visual preference,
Hmm.
like, and able to tap into that part of my world that I was like, okay, therapy has modalities
Hmm.
that will be applicable to me. Like I'm not a know-it-all, but I feel like I'm confident in when
Yeah.
I know something's not going to work, I know it right away.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like,
Hmm.
I don't even want to waste time.
Yeah.
But this was like, oh, okay, you got me. You
Hmm.
hooked me.
Yeah.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
then I just, of course, thankfully simultaneously going through school
Yeah.
for for it, and then teaching little
Hmm.
guys the same thing. It's like just this continual loop of
Yep.
learning and um,
Growing. Yeah.
growing. Yep,
Hmm.
exactly.
Um, so this was where I wanted to go actually next. So this is great how it's all working out. But you're an amazing artist, first of all. I just have to say
Thank
that.
you.
I'm always just blown away. Like when you post stuff on social media, I'm like, oh my gosh, if I even just could do half of that, that would be amazing. But so
Hey.
I'm assuming that you plan on incorporating art into some of the therapy that you're going to be doing. What does that look like? Like, have you started doing that yet? Or I'm just curious how you combine art and therapy.
Yes, thank you. So, um, there are a couple things that I do. Technically, I don't offer art therapy because I'm not licensed therapist right now. So I don't
Okay.
offer anything that would be in the therapeutic world as far as I don't diagnose, I don't do
Hmm.
treatment plan or any of these things. Um, that being said, I start my practicum in the winter and maybe I might have the opportunity to incorporate some of that art world into my practicum. So I'll
Yeah.
report back to you if I
Okay.
can find out how that
Yes.
works.
We would
Yeah.
love that. Yeah.
But in the otherwise semi-professional world, I do provide what I call emotional processing, like through the creative
Okay.
outlet,
Yep.
so, processing through art because
Hmm.
I'm not diagnosing and I'm not working with any disorders or even
Sure.
even talking about anything, right?
Yeah.
But it's where I work with a client to connect them to it's kind of like it goes in increments how it is planned out, but basically from the beginning to end you're working on an emotion that that is something that you have been struggling with, or maybe
Hmm.
you want to work on or want to build in your skill box. And so I work with the art in different ways, like maybe connecting through different colors that have these types of representations to that feeling.
Okay.
And then we talk about that feeling, and we talk about maybe triggers that we get aware of
Mhm.
that create that feeling, and then we're working with this. So we're kind of, depending on whichever art project we want to do at that time,
Okay.
'cause I like to do a lot of continual line drawings. So where
Okay.
I'm just talking, and or you're just talking and
Mhm.
drawing this out with your eyes closed, and then we kind of take a look at it, whatever is afterwards, and whatever you see, when we start talking, you can talk about what you see if you want to, or you can sit with it, or and not that, I mean, you can be in complete
Mhm.
silence for all it matters, really. But
Mhm.
it's more about building that awareness to our emotions, and then including mindfulness techniques within that whole structure, so that we can bring back our nervous systems
Mhm.
down to kind of a baseline, so that we're not working in that heightened state of whatever that
Sure.
emotion is
Sure.
anymore.
Yeah.
So a lot of incorporation of at the beginning, where you do, have your calming moments, a little bit of
Yeah.
breathing. I like to connect those moments with breathing to colors. So we're
Okay.
visualizing these colors and kind of breathing out any colors that don't resonate.
Mhm.
Sometimes very esoteric stuff, sometimes very preschool-ish,
Mhm.
and sometimes very let's get down to it, get in your mind, where do you want to work on? And
Yeah.
it just kind of depends on where we're at in that stage, but those are the things that I offer to help people. Maybe because I recognize that not everyone wants to go to therapy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And not everyone wants to talk about the things that they got to talk about, but
Yeah.
they have this freedom to just express and
Mhm.
explore without without having judgment,
Mhm.
without the fear of judgment, because they just had a feeling,
Mhm.
or just had a thought that
Mhm.
needed to be regurgitated somehow, that might not
Sure.
look so pleasant.
Yeah.
But
Or maybe they layer it with therapy.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, incredible, because there are lots of forms that therapists that do use art in their therapy to help.
Yeah.
And of course I will too, but I mean, that's like a lot of people also, and to be fair, people are resistant to art too, because they
I
think, oh,
know.
I can't do it, and it'll
It's
look so
or
bad.
or they think it's so childish. I can't do
It's
that. It's
right,
childish.
right. Why do I want to play their beats or whatever?
Yeah.
But it's really just about bringing that nervous system back
Mhm.
to an equilibrium baseline. Like
Yeah.
finding your balance, and art is a way to do it. I think that doesn't feel so triggering.
Yeah.
You
So
know.
where do you do this at? Do you work for an agency? Do you kind of just do your own thing? Do you go to people? What does that look like?
Yeah, I can go to people. I've done it in my home before,
Okay.
and with the different facilities that are opening up in the future, I'll
Yeah.
be offering it, some
Cool.
services there hopefully as
Okay.
well.
Yeah.
And I'm on the non-therapeutic side, or the non-emotional processing side, or just the fun artsy side. Like, I do have a bunch of easels too, to do painting parties. I mean, like, that's a fun
Oh,
thing,
that's
but it's
fun.
like, yeah,
Ooh, I got excited about that one. I'm all about the painting
yeah,
parties.
painting parties.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if somebody was like, "Hey, I'm kind of like I'm interested in maybe following her and seeing more about what this is." Are you just on Instagram, or what's the best way? I mean, I know you are, but what is the best way for
Yes. Well, my Instagram is the proverbial phoenix, and
Okay.
that's what has my art. And I think that that would be the best way to get connected or see what I do, is just as far as my art world.
Yeah, yeah.
Currently, I'm working and building my professional world and that area. I have a website, but apparently it's down at the moment, so I need to go
Okay.
back on to find out what's going on it. But um, that's also the proverbial phoenix at. Oh gosh. Well, I'll get back to you on that
Okay.
one, and we can edit that in. I can't
Yeah,
remember
I
what it
can I
is.
can totally put that in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
remember what it is right now. It's
Okay.
so bad, because I haven't been on it for a while. But
You're good.
that just goes to show you, I've been working in the education, in the learning world, and not so much focused on my professional aspect, but
Yeah.
I have been now recombining what that looks like. I have a little bit more time. I'm
Yeah.
not so strapped like I was in my undergrad. I'm not working at the preschool anymore, right? So I've
Yeah.
been able
Yeah.
to transition a little bit more. And now I'm really, really focusing on how I can help reach out to people and help people facilitate and find some healing
Mm-hmm.
through the art world or um, expression world.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, people writing too. Writing is huge.
Yeah.
Written
Yeah.
exposure therapy has one of the most underrated therapies, but most effective regarding PTS treatments
Mm,
with a lot of veterans. So, like, if we can
really?
imagine how
Mm-hmm.
powerful the written word is when people talk
Mm-hmm.
about like write it out. Like, there's something to
Something
it.
to that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
So,
cool. Okay. So to, to get to where you are today, um, you definitely have had to step into a growth mindset and like move forward in a place of like, I'm still learning, I'm growing, every day's a new day. And there's people listening because you and I have both been there before where they're just like so desperate for, I need, this is not the life I want. Like, I'm so not well right now and I need more. And I just know for myself, like it took so much for me to finally be able to go to therapy and start my own journey of like healing. And so just kind of hearing what you've said, I'm just curious if you could tell our listeners who are maybe in that place of realizing this isn't working for me. I gotta, to find some healing. What would you say to them to kind of get them um, moving in that direction?
sure. Yeah, that's hard. And a great question. I kind of feel like I just had a recent experience that might help me kind of formulate an opinion about what I would say specifically or how I would encourage that. So, I mean, the reality is that we all are just kind of going, I come to a point, right, where we're like,
Mm-hmm.
this is too much. This is
Mm-hmm.
too hard.
Mm-hmm.
And what is maybe even the point? I can
Yep.
tell you that there have been so many days that I'm like, I can't, I don't want, I can't.
Yeah.
And that's like the tenor of my conversation inside my head.
Yeah.
But what I realized, I think, in the last even few weeks, ironically, is that we have to give ourselves that moment of kind, kind of sitting with ourselves and identifying a couple strengths
Mm-hmm.
about ourselves, right? And not like, oh, I'm good at drawing or I'm good at making this dish and for
Mm-hmm.
dinner. More about like what's a quality within you that you know that it means something to you
Mm-hmm.
about yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be a lot, one, two, three, who knows, but sit with that for a minute and think about why that's worth something to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that very same worth is why you can seek someone else to help engage with
Mm-hmm.
you, to find those measurements, to help you find those tools, to help you find the strategy to keep in alignment with what you think you are worth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what therapy does. That's what a
Yeah.
therapist provides for you. It's someone that you can engage with. For me,
Mm-hmm.
weekly, it's like, finally, I have someone that can help me track the things that I keep saying, oh my gosh, this is so nuts. I'm so
Mm-hmm.
crazy. Someone to rein me back in and say, hey, this is life and this
Yeah.
is a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's okay to feel that you're not okay. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why you have someone to be able to bounce that off of, to give that platform of like, I need to express what this is.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if you're at home and you have a very healing relationship with a partner, let's say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or even someone that you trust so much that you would confide in at your workplace or a pastor or whatever. The
Mm-hmm.
reality is that that's not their purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And we designate our needs onto this maybe one person, right?
Mm.
And those very deep, hard-seated things that we haven't figured out is really hard to expect like our partners to help us figure out. And so I just say, if you're looking at yourself going, I can't figure this out myself. My partner's not helping me
Mm-hmm.
figure this out. My coworker, my boss, my pastor, they're not helping me figure this out. Well, that's why we go to therapy.
Yeah, that's good. I like
They
the
help
way that
you.
yeah, I like the way that you said that because that is so true. Like that is not their job to help us find that healing. They can support us, they can hold
Right.
us up, they can walk with us, but you're right. And I love that you said that because it's so true. And I think we
Yeah.
do depend on those people too much to be that person. And that's what we often hear is, oh, I'm good. I don't need therapy. I've got my, I talk to my husband about everything, or I have my pastor and he's great. I meet with him every week, but that's not their role. So
Right.
I love that you said that, because therapy is okay. It's
It
okay.
is absolutely okay. Thank
Yeah.
you. I think one of the things I just thought of when, we were talking here is the other thing that I really think is the most beneficial place of therapy is when you're willing and wanting to do the growth, right? The
Mm-hmm.
growth work is that's your safe place of accountability. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have someone sitting there saying, well, you didn't do this, or you said you're going to do that. You have
Mm-hmm.
someone saying, hey, we're working on this. Great job.
Mm-hmm.
Or that's been a real struggle for you, but you get to go, hey, okay, I want
Mm-hmm.
to be doing this. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for helping me be accountable, not feeling like I'm failing because I haven't
Mm-hmm.
reached the second step in the goal yet, like, and they have, I think that's another reason why I love doing this work, or I'm passionate about being able to provide this type of work, is because like they're like that that goal out there that they get to see everything
Mm-hmm.
that's going on, right? And we're like, but we got this. This is
Yes.
everything here,
Yeah.
this narrow vision we have. And
Yeah.
um yeah,
Yeah,
it's
for
okay
sure.
to not have it all under control. And they're
Yeah.
there to help keep you in line for it. So
Yeah. What do
calmly
you
and nicely and effectively.
totally, yeah. What do you wish that more people asked about healing and growth? Or maybe that you just wish more people thought about when it comes to healing and growth?
um let's see. I kind of think that there was an idea I originally had about it, but I think mostly just for people to understand, like, growth is power,
Mm,
right? So ultimately, if you are a person, and this might sound a little off for a second, so follow me, but if you're a person who seeks control
mhm,
and power, the best way to do that is to gain knowledge,
mhm.
right? And the best way to gain knowledge is to seek more about whatever it is, so that you can feel confident that you're not making a decision based off, oh, I feel this way, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But you're able to embrace everything with a curiosity. And so, like, that's what I wish people will look about with life, or when they're approached with something that maybe doesn't feel right directly with them, but they
Yeah,
don't know why,
yeah.
like, that's your opportunity to employ a growth mindset. It's like,
Mhm,
oh, I'm feeling challenged right now. What is that?
mhm.
Okay. I'm not going to hold anyone responsible for the feeling that I'm holding. I'm going to find out why I feel that way.
Mm,
And then
yeah.
that creates, I think that just creates a more peaceful environment.
Mhm. Well, and we do that too often. Like, we wanna hold somebody accountable for this feeling that I have that's uncomfortable. It must
Yeah.
be your fault that you did that, and that's why I feel this way, or it's gotta be because my teacher did this, or because my spouse did this, and, but it's not that. It's we do have to look inside and be like, "Okay, what is this within me that is
Yeah.
this is affecting me, and how do I move forward and grow and heal from whatever it is?"
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, and that's not to say that those feelings aren't valid, right? I mean, we
Right?
do
Yeah.
feel like they've caused whatever they've done or said has caused pain, or we're angry, but
Absolutely.
it's that whole cliche motto. It's like you have a right to have your feelings, but what you do with them
Yeah.
is,
That's it. Yeah. For
kindness
sure.
matters too, even in
Yeah.
anger, I think. That's
Yeah.
hard. It is hard. It's hard to live like that.
Yeah.
It really is. Sometimes it's a lot easier to live in a place of maybe not so much ignorance is not quite the right term, but kind of kind
Mhm.
of a state of ignorance, when we just don't really feel um that we should be challenging ourselves
Mhm.
even. So I think it's a very important to continually seek an opportunity to grow.
Mhm. Yeah, that's good. Um, Okay, well, we are actually coming up at the end of our time. This has been
Okay.
so good. Oh my gosh. But I do have one final question for you.
Yeah.
So I ask all of my guests just to give 3 resources that you would recommend to our listeners, whether it's something you have done yourself or you just know about, but 3 things you would recommend for people who are moving forward in healing and growth.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, well, we've definitely touched on it quite a bit here, and I would say therapy,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yep.
therapy is the way to go. It's okay, like it kind of segues into like it's okay to want to figure out a way to find a way to be okay if you think
Hmm.
you need that. If you're not resonating, then it's okay to seek therapy.
Hmm.
Um, and in our area, there a lot of people that are coming up with different modalities and different ways
Hmm.
to offer those types of therapies. And another one that I touched on earlier was about finding your strengths within yourself. That's a great place to start when you're feeling really defeated and like come on, I can't stand myself. There's like nothing there.
Hmm.
There's like nothing worth it out here. But I think that maybe this might sound again ignorant to say, but even through all what that I've been through, I've realized that there are little bits of moments that I'm like, that's the synchronicity in life that makes me go, oh, that's
Hmm.
okay. We can keep being here,
Hmm.
and it's okay to have those moments
Hmm.
too. It's okay to say that you're good about something or that you feel good about yourself about, that type of thing. So
Yeah.
find a couple of things that you can honor about yourself and just sit with them. You don't even have to do anything with them,
Hmm.
just honor that
Hold
space of
space for them.
yourself.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Um, and I think the other resource or other information I would say is uh, you I think they all just fall in line, but you just have to realize that you matter and how you want to matter matters.
Mm.
So however that feels right for you, if you need to find like we talked about different there's sound baths, there's breath work, there's
Mhm.
cognitive behavioral therapy, there's Reiki, there's all sorts of
Mhm.
professionals out there that offer a way that makes you feel like you're connecting to you, and that's okay to not feel like you are have a specific regimen
Yeah.
or this idea that you thought you had. It's okay to just break free from what you thought was what was
Yeah. Yeah.
and become what may be. So
Yeah.
it's all okay.
Yeah. Ugh, you have so many, like, I feel like I could quote so many things that you said. That can be something that you add. Let's have you do that. We're just gonna like copyright some of your quotes. You're gonna make them
Awesome.
into artwork and you'll sell them. There we
Woo!
go.
Let's do it. Let's have a party.
Yay. Oh my gosh. That's so
A
good.
copyright
I love
paint
that.
party.
Yeah. There you go. Well, I am definitely going to put all of that in the show notes. So if people are listening, you're like, wait, what was that she said? I will make sure that I put it all in the show notes. People can find everything that we talked about. They can find you. I will put all of that. And if you want to get back to me with your website, once you get that figured out, I'll add
Oh,
that
yes. Thank you.
in there too. So yeah, I really appreciate you and you coming on here and being so vulnerable. And I hope that people learned something today because I know that I just feel full after this conversation. So thank you.
No, thank you. I feel
Yeah.
like I got a little goosebumps.
Oh,
I just am appreciative of this opportunity to connect with you. And I know I said a little bit earlier, but it's just awesome to see what you do and to have this
mm,
opportunity to connect on that level with you is really resonates with me. So thank you for having me.
yeah,
I
of
appreciate it,
course.
giving
Yeah,
me this chance.
of course. And I'm sure that we will, you know, see each other in the social work space in the future. I'm sure of it.
Yes,
You're going to do
I'm
great
sure of it
things. I'm
too.
excited for you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, have a great rest of your week. I hope that it doesn't snow, but if it does, we will survive.
Thanks. I know. Be safe,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, thanks, Brian.
Thank
Bye.
you.